Welcome back to part 2 of the top 5 character list episode. The last episode overran ever so slightly, so we've had to split it into 2. Adam has come back to finish off. Welcome back.
Hello, I feel welcome.
That's good. That's aim 1 achieved. When I went back to edit it, and it was, 3 hours long, I thought I cut a bit out and then a bit more, like I can't really shorten this anymore, so we'll just split it. It'll be fine.
That might be you may have been correct actually about the whole I might have overcooked the Nagash entry, something that became very clear as I was reading it out.
It's all a learning experience.
It is, yeah. A few things came to light as we've mentioned behind the scenes.
Well, since there doesn't need to be an intro, you can do any FAQs, corrections, and errata. I, of course, didn't do anything wrong, so which may be a hint about someone coming up later on.
Oh, Garrosh. Garrosh is in this. Little nerd humor.
Hang on, wait a minute. You're jumping over IPs. If it's
crossing the streams,
yeah. Although,
yeah, I'm
one of them who owns that did sue the other one, so it's all.
Oh, that's happened before. That's the tale as old as time with them nicking each other's IP playfully.
War Machine, Steam Tank turns into War Machine.
Gyrocopter turns into Flying Engine.
Yeah.
Protoss become the Tau Empire, allegedly.
I'm not seeing that so much, but
I heard that was maybe a counter shot across the bows to the Zerg being a lot like the Tyranids, as they went, all right then. Well, 2 can play that game, but that is pure conjecture. Please don't sue me.
Yeah, but like the Protoss are interesting and good, and the Tau are just bland and boring. So,
shots fired! Shots very much fired.
Haven't you seen the 3rd episode?
Seen this audio episode.
Listened to the 3rd episode.
Yes, of course. I have listened to every episode of this before being in it.
Well, we might have to cut this bit. The Tau are my, I think, the number 3 in my top 5 dislikes.
Yeah, I didn't actually finish listening to the dislike episode, so yeah, snip that.
Well, you're never been invited back. But anyway, anything you wish to correct? Now's your chance.
Yes, I'm currently. I definitely called the Black Templars the Black Legion at one point. I think I transposed 1 or 2 names. And I used the word literally a lot more than I thought I did. So we're going to try and, excluding that one use of it there, try and just not say that at all today. See how that
literally
goes.
Trying to reduce the amount of times you say it.
I am. But in my defense, I do use the word correctly. I don't know. I guess at some point it just became a placeholder word. Anyhow.
That's a new one, anyhow. It's like how I say anyway all the time.
Don't give us a complex about this. This is difficult enough.
Just turns into a catchphrase.
A dull as dishwater one.
Yeah.
I believe you, my colleague, my gracious host, you were up next, weren't you?
Yes. Hang on. Oh, it's going the other way here. Yes,
Getting the feet under the table now.
Yeah. The poacher turned gamekeeper here. Well, my number 3 is the Emperor Karl-Franz, which I know we've just done a whole episode on him, but he's really good. He's
no, I'll take that. He's a solid choice.
Yeah, he's a good mix of very interesting fluff, as we went into on the previous episode. He's got a very good rise to power. I like his political, the way he keeps the empire bound together. We went into it, but he's got a technique of, he knows what his political, not enemies, but rivals, he knows what they want. He knows how to manipulate them to give them what he wants. He's a great war leader. He's an inspiring leader of the nation, and he's got a very cool model. the latest version of him, where Deathclaw is an appropriate size, not like slightly bigger than a horse.
I still like the old one, but I get what you mean. Yeah, it's very jarring that stat line belongs to something that just looked like an angry bird pony.
Yeah, and of course he wields the Galmaraz, which makes him very good in rules terms as well. He's got a larger inspiring presence, but when you put him on Deathclaw, that goes up to 24 inches. So
because the elevation,
basically, yeah, well, it's a large target, and then he expands it a bit. So if you put him in the right place, he can cover pretty much the entire battlefield with his leadership 10, which reflects his fluff background as well, I think.
Yeah, he has something of a reputation for leading from the front. I think that's reflected in. I don't know if it's still possible in the current edition, the current and last edition, because there won't be any more. Nothing else happened.
Well, the old world's coming back, apparently.
I'll believe it when I see it.
They've released.
They don't make a terrible mess of it.
I'm optimistic.
I mean, yeah, so am I. But the real world has taught me not to be.
I think this iteration of GW have had more hits than misses.
You know what? You are right. I'm trying not to be too cynical about it. I think 2020 was rough. Sorry, what was I saying? Yeah, I think that was reflected in 6th edition and 7th, I believe, because you could take him on foot. People forget this, but Karl-Franz, his standard cost was with Deathclaw, but he could also be mounted on a horse, mounted on a dragon, which I've seen some really good conversions for, or on Deathclaw, or, like I say, he could be fielded on foot if you liked. So it sort of reflected that nature of his character a bit.
You still can. 8th edition you can. And yes, you can ride the Imperial Dragon, of which there is no model. So, I don't know.
Good luck.
Yeah. Could you stick him onto the High Elf Dragon? I don't know. Does the Imperial Dragon look like the High Elf Dragon? I don't know. There's no real description of it in the army book.
It is a dragon that the Empire has. I've seen it successfully converted from the High Elf Dragon. So, I mean, that's as close as you're going to get, because all the other dragons are a bit gribbly and two-headed and evil. So
they're all in that old sort of S-shaped bendy dragon that was popular up to about 6th edition.
Yeah.
Or even like remember the Wood Elf one? The Wood Forest Dragon?
I do remember the Wood Elf Forest Dragon. And, well, all the dragon models were basically identical to a point, weren't they?
Because Malekith is just the evil version of the S-shaped dragon.
Yeah, I think the only thing that changed was the head. I think the only one who had a specific sculpt was Egrim van Horstman, who had the classic two-headed Chaos Dragon model. And the rest all seem to have roughly the same body and limbs, I believe. No doubt people will correct me if I'm wrong on that. I could well be. But yeah, sorry.
Back to nice dragon. What's it called? Dragon segue. No, that's all right. Whatever it is. He hits a bit of a brick in the game because does he auto hit? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you literally just. Oh, I did it again. You, but it is true. You just roll to hit with him.
Because all hits wound, don't they? So the fact that he's strength 4 doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, the difference between that and a rune fang is that that Galmaraz causes D3 wounds instead of a single wound.
Yeah, so you can. You must have at least 3 attacks.
I think Karl-Franz has 4.
Possibly more.
Because that used to be one of the advantages to taking an Imperial General over an Elector Count. Both can wield a rune fang, but the rune fang was better in the hands of an Empire General because they had 4 base attacks instead of 3.
Yeah, because it's different in 8th. Because you take a General or you take a Arch Lector. I think they're the generals. And then you could say the General is a Elector Count, but there's not a specific Elector Count in it.
I think the difference in 7th was Electors had a wider choice of gear and had some slightly different rules, but the Empire General was just a bit more fighty and choppy, basically. But I believe both could take rune fangs.
If you do manage to kill him, Deathclaw goes berserk, which is like that happens in the fluff where he doesn't get killed, but he gets severely wounded, and Deathclaw holds I think it's orcs.
It stands over his body, yeah.
Yeah, protects him until the Reichsguard can cut through to him hours later. So I like how they reflected that in the rules. He doesn't roll on the monster reaction table, I don't think. He just goes mad. He gets frenzied.
He just goes mad off the bat, yeah. He's a hippogriff, isn't he, Deathclaw, not a griffin?
No, he's a griffin.
He's a griffin,
yeah.
Right. I always get griffins and hippogriffs mixed up.
He's spelt differently to the
it's
other
griffin, isn't it? Not Gryphon.
Not Griffon. And I think griffins are related to the demigriff knights, where griffins and some other animal have crossbred somehow to produce the demigriffs that the inner circle knights ride.
Yeah, it's something that GW likes doing that sometimes. Create a unit that raises questions, and then hope teenagers won't think too hard.
Well, it's all the way back to Greek mythology as well, so...
Oh, absolutely. But
Chimera, how does that come about?
Well, that's not... Zeus is probably the answer there. But
there's the answer. It's probably a mutating power of chaos then, that's how you can get around that one.
Yeah, it's all, for the same reason that... is Slanesh only just now getting into Age of Sigmar?
I don't know.
I saw something about model releases, but I know that Slanesh was sort of very much downplayed when it first came out.
Slanesh went missing, I think, at the start of Age of Sigmar. And they got like a temp in, they got the Horned Rat to cover for him. And then Slanesh must be back.
They got Diet Nurgle to cover for him.
Well, it's either him or Hashut. We're going for the job.
Oh, bless. I keep forgetting Hashut's a thing.
Is he a demon? Is he a god? Who knows?
Who cares?
Not even the Chaos Dwarfs. This is full of segues because we've covered the Emperor in big detail previously. But I've never used him. I would use him if I had the model and more than 40 halberdiers and a steam tank to make my army. I don't think I've seen him used either.
I have used him, but not against you.
No, I just get the impression he's used more than other special characters because he seems worth it on the surface. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Special characters seem to be... They're either really good or they're useless, and there's a lot more useless ones than really good ones.
Well, he's a bit more than just an overcosted Elector count, though, isn't he?
Well, yeah.
There's a lot of flexibility in his gear, and the Silver Seal, is that a 4+ ward save it gives him?
Yeah, that's the foot. So he's durable as well.
Yeah. I believe a 1+ save.
Yeah, and they've got the cold-blooded rule for their BSB, so he's given a massive leadership 10 bubble, which is done on 3d6, rerollable if you've got the BSB. So I think he fits in quite well, although like anything on a big monster, it's cannon fodder, so you've got to hide him out the way of that.
Absolutely.
If fighting dwarfs or something.
I think Deathclaw's a great option, but if you're going up against an artillery-heavy opponent, you can always just slip him into a big wedge of greatswords, I suppose. On foot, if you can be bothered to convert that.
Stubborn leadership 10 with Galmaraz, yeah. You could see that. Is he modelled on foot?
He is not, but I don't see a reason you couldn't merge his parts with an Empire Captain or some of your Empire guy spares.
They are. I've been looking for them, and they are incredibly difficult. I can't find any Empire characters for anything approaching a reasonable amount of money.
Oh, you should still get. I've got a very old lead Empire Captain.
Might have to be lead.
Yeah, that's how old.
I might have to accept the poisoning to get someone to lead my army because it's just halberdiers at the minute.
Oh dear! You know the one I mean, though, the Empire Captain model, the one who's stood. He's holding like a flamberge or flamberge, depending how you want to pronounce that. He's just sort of standing with one hand on the hip, and he's got the sword tipping to the ground. He's just wearing full plate mail. I previously used another model of that I had when you remember I had a converted unit of, well, not converted. I had a count size unit of great swords, which are the Rykon foot.
Yeah, I've seen that's quite popular as it turns out. So yeah, he's having never used him. It's more of his fluff. I think someone asked me offhand about a year and a half ago who's the favorite character in Warhammer Fantasy, and it is Karl-Franz because I know it's not as grim dark as 40k, but it's still not a very nice world to be living in. And he's just a bit of light in the darkness. That he's actually a competent ruler. He knows what he's doing. He's not
corrupt, as a lot of the Empire's past rulers have been.
Yeah, he's not. He's good at his job, and he's interested in preserving the Empire, and he doesn't like bits of it being sacrificed to chaos, and he'll try to stop that. And his model is really impressive. I can't say anything about how good he is on the battlefield in reality, but he looks pretty good. So that's sort of why I like him in the stories. I like his position. I like his outlook. I'd follow him. He's that inspiring.
He has a very good game pedigree as well. He's obviously the protagonist in the first Warhammer Total War for Empire, him or Balthazar Gelt. But he featured in Shadow of the Horned Rat, and he was also in Dark Omen.
He is in Dark Omen, but he's characterized slightly differently there because he's quite. He's almost sarcastic and he's grim.
Very grim, yeah. He's grim in Shadow of the Horned Rat as well, but I believe he gives you a unit of Reiksguard Knights.
Does he give you the great swords? Like
it might be great swords in Dark Omen.
Yeah, I think he might give you the great swords in Dark Omen. They should do a film about him.
They should. I mean, World of Warcraft got a film.
And that wasn't even very good. Yeah.
It was watchable.
It's the best you can say. When's that sequel coming? True. Yeah. It made a lot of money.
I'm not surprised. They just market that to China, I imagine. I think that's what they actually did as well.
Yeah, I think that's why they made the money.
That's it. Asia's your market of the future. Yeah, I've often wondered why Games Workshop don't do a movie. I heard that they did one, but we don't talk about that.
Well, they're supposed to be doing some sort of Eisenhorn TV show, apparently.
Oh yeah, I remember reading about that. Maybe did they remember that they did Space Marine and just stop it? Sorry, the Ultramarines movie. There we go. I've named it. I don't know, but that was. Have you seen that?
No.
It happened. They made that. It's got Sean Pertwee in it and John Hurt. Those are its pluses. I think it's got John Hurt in. It probably has.
Who are they playing?
Oh god, that was
the Emperor and
Space Marines.
Oh, right.
It's a very strange beast, that film. Almost worth it for seeing when they have a land speeder in it and it makes the sound of a moped when it flies off. Very strange. No, it wasn't great. No.
I'm still campaigning or not, but I really think that Henry Cavill should play the Emperor or the Emperor. I think he'd fit both of them.
He actually would. He's got the jawline for either Emperor.
Yeah, there is a slight hint at that in one of the Total War DLCs where you start. I think it's Eltharion the Grim. There's a lore master called Cavill who you start with. It's sort of like the time that The Witcher came out.
Well, that's what you do. You got to court him because the man is a very self-confessed nerd.
Yeah, he's a big what do you call him? Custodes.
World of Warcraft player.
Yeah.
Oh, no, sorry, he does paint Custodes. Yes.
Yeah, he does.
I just remember that the story that really warmed me to him was that he nearly didn't pick up the phone call that was to say you got the job as Superman because he was raiding with his WoW guild, and I was like, that's priorities right there, son. You don't leave the guild you don't leave your guild
Not even for a
a
multi-million
man down.
pound paycheck.
Yeah. And it turns out maybe he should have never picked up that phone because I think he was given some criminally bad material to work with in that. I think he's a great actor. He's a lot of fun. I think The Witcher proves that. But yeah, sorry, it is a digression, but I feel that Henry Cavill needs defending.
Right.
There's a chance he'll listen to this and think I'm a really cool guy.
I don't think he listens to this.
But he might.
Well, if he does, add me on Twitter. It's below Henry. And I'll write into the movie studio and say I think you should play the Emperor or the Emperor in whatever film they feature in.
In Warhammer, both 40,000 and otherwise.
Yeah. This hasn't really been much about the Emperor, but I'm sticking with it. Anyway, what's your fourth choice?
Yeah, let's go for it. My fourth choice is if anyone who's a former or current user of TG will be very familiar with him. Anyone who likes your 40k memes will be, but he's genuinely quite a lot of fun. It is the Necron Overlord, Trazyn the Infinite.
We've gone Xenos.
We have. I like Trazyn because remember when I think it was 5th edition when they first started revamping the Necrons, and that's when he first appeared. Necrons went from servile automata to these where the overlords and elite and noble Necrons had more characterization. They had a bit more. They had personalities. This is especially reflected in the special characters, and no more than Trazyn here. So he has. There's this famous hyperscroll message addressed to Inquisitor Helena Valeria, which is, if you Google Trazyn, that quote comes up. Basically, he leaves a little post-it note on a Tesseract cube to a female Inquisitor who's tried to do him in with a bunch of catachans. He steals the catachans and then sends her a little love note attached to a Tesseract cube. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Basically, he's a bit of an oddball. His whole shtick is he maintains this grand stasis collection of historical treasures and dioramas of the of historical events. He is kind of obsessed with it and is sort of also weirdly reviled in Necron circles because he's a known prankster and thief of people's stuff. He also weirdly intervenes almost at random in a very Eldar way among wider galactic events if it suits him or if it advances his goals or will protect it or expand his collection. So I think it would be interesting to note what have we got here. Yeah. There is sort of shadow hanging over him in that he 5th edition Necrons was a Matt Ward Codex. I know. So there's a bit of slapstick element to him.
Is he one of those weird, quirky characters that have just slipped through the net into the more serious editions of the game?
Yes, he absolutely is that. But he's become a fan favourite, so I think he's safe. As in, he was involved in the Fall of Cadia. He was there for that, So, he's popular. He's popular enough to be kept in on main events. I have a little short list of things what he has in his collection, which I'll be going through in a mo. But I just I find him. It was very liberating, I think, for Necron players to have him appear up there. When your army goes from having almost no personality to having, characters like Iratek the Stormlord, Zerash the Illuminator, and Trazyn, who gave your dynasties personality, and then also changing that they were just slaves of the Catan to they beat up their gods and turned them into Pokemon, effectively. Very interesting. I like that aspect of them, that they were still largely automata, but that they'd overwhelmed the Catan, shattered them, and enslaved them. At the fall of Cadia, he opened one of his little stasis pods and crapped out a bunch of Ultramarines from the dawn of the heresy. Right after the end of the Horus Heresy, they'd been stasis trapped by him. He dropped them in to aid in the defense of Cadia. So
he can be nice as well.
Well, self-interested. That's what I mean when I say acts apparently at random. It's usually in his own interest, but yeah, he has that sort of trickster god element, which I kind of enjoy. He's personally antagonized the Salamanders, specifically Vulcan Hestan, by saying, "I have the Song of Entropy." 10-year conflict with the Necrons and the Salamanders later, Trazyn more or less admits that no, he never had it, and Hestan kills him and then gets mad that it wasn't him. This happens a lot. He also famously provokes Logan Grimnar to the same effect, gets killed, it wasn't really him. He just basically, unlike all the other Necrons, he has no interest of restoring the Necron supremacy to glory, though he does believe in it. He occasionally pops up on Imperial planets to help out if it can get him something he wants. He often acts via proxies, so it's not literally Trazyn himself appearing in front of the guard. He uses mind shackled proxies a lot. So there's a nefarious edge to him, but he's popular enough that he's the Necron fleet commander on Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2.
Oh, I haven't played as that yet.
I haven't either, but I didn't know that either. But yeah, he has. The one thing he doesn't collect anymore is Tyranids, apparently, because at one point, I think Solemnus is his tomb world. Some of his Tyranid samples got out and started eating all the others, so he had to unlock various samples and promise them their freedom to cleanse the Tyranids of his collection. And now he's apparently trying to restart his collection on a separate planet, isolated from everything else.
So where does he keep all this stuff?
On his tomb world, he has this grand stasis gallery, and well, to give you an idea of the scale, one of his I'll look up the actual details of this because I don't know them off the top of my head. It is I think it's like he has the death of Lord Solo Macarius. He has an entire. There we go. He has the Wraithbone Choir of the Azerni craft world of Altansar, preserved head of Sebastian Thor. He has the Husk of an Enslaver, which is very interesting if you know your deep background Xenos lore. Enslavers are one of the most dangerous Xenos races that exists, but they are very rarely brought up. They don't have rules on tabletop, but they are mentioned in the background quite a bit. Essentially, Enslavers are these horrible floating mega psychers that can dominate entire planetary societies. So getting one in the system in an Imperium is generally like represented as, they do appear, like I say, they appear in the background fluff. multi-world uprisings can be all down to one enslaver, so they're kind of a big deal. Let's see. So several regiments of Katachan jungle fighters. A device that contained the entire hive fleet that launched the Tyranid invasion of the world Vuros, which Trazyn himself had sparked in an effort to add Tyranid exhibit to his collection. He found himself forced to abandon this exhibit after his legions were forced to engage in several full-scale battles with Tyranids.
So he's a bit of a scamp then.
Oh, absolutely. At least one. I'm just going over the Cliff Notes list here. There's some I didn't see before. So he has Lieutenant Commander Cervantes of the Ultramarines Legion and his battle brothers, and several Contemptor pattern dreadnoughts from the Heresy. They were the ones he threw out in Cadia. At least one member of the Custodes. Yeah. Several regiments of Vostroyan Firstborn. Also, this one really shouldn't be a footnote. Allegedly, the last Lord Castellan of Cadia, Ursakar E. Creed, is part of his collection now.
Has he vanished out of the lore?
Captured during the final moments before the fall of the Fortress World to Chaos during the 13th Black Crusade. So he's not dead. He's just in mint condition.
It'll all be part of a big plan if it's Creed.
Oh, absolutely. But yeah, I think that's basically, without getting too much into the meme realm of him, that's more or less Trazyn in a nutshell. He just sort of dicks about, randomly appearing in ways that serve him, stealing things, trading things. It's the fact that he steals from Necrons as well. He's just a sort of force of nature. But yeah, that's more or less him. I just felt that I like him because, actually, similar to Karl-Franz, he's sort of he's a light-hearted but not a world immersion breaking, light-hearted 40k character, which is quite hard to do usually. But I think they pulled it off quite well with him.
Very good. Well, my penultimate choice is Belisarius Cawl.
I'm shocked.
Yeah. This is following the trajectory perfectly of my favourite armies, I think.
It is, yes.
For a very good... Well, he is a Deus Ex Machina to a lot of problems that needed
very literally
solution. Yeah. He didn't exist anywhere until the Imperial Triumvirate thing in I think it was the dying days of 7th edition. They wedged him in for the fall of Cadia. But now I can't really imagine the Admech without him, or the bigger Imperium without him. And I know it really is usually bad right to say this one guy solved all our problems.
A wizard did it, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm almost willing to just ignore that because I like the character that they've come up with. And there's all sorts of mystery about his past because he's 10,000 years old, which should be impossible. Because even with the best augmentations and things, the top level Magosses get, they're only supposed to be able to live about 1,000 years before they start going insane. But there's hints that Cawl has copied himself or absorbed the minds of other tech priests, or replaced himself with some sort of illegal memory cores and stuff to make sure he's last of 10,000 years. There was some sort of hint that he was involved in inventing the Black Carapace with the Emperor, but that was apparently not him. That was his mentor, who tried to take over his body, but Cawl's mind dominated his mind, so he sort of absorbed all his memories. So he's got
the fulcrum.
Yeah, so he's sort of absorbed loads of insight and knowledge from his superior. The Primaris thing, yeah. Or as it turned out, I've been working on these for 10,000 years, just when we need them. Yeah, I'll hand wave that. You're just going to make you're just going to make your peace with that.
You have. I enjoy it because I do sometimes miss when they say, "Oh, this anti-grav technology is super rare," and then the Primaris turn up. He's like, "Yeah, anti-grav tanks for everybody. Anti-grav super heavies. Also, here's some new bolters. Here's some new power armor. I reinvented the Gene Seed."
That's right. I like that. Those bolters are rubbish. The bolt rifles where it's at. It's like, oh,
yeah,
you could just make that, could you? Yeah.
It's just longer.
More rifled.
It's
a 3/4 turn. The rifling rather than just smooth bore.
It's I enjoyed the idea that it's literally 10,000 years of just him and like one anvil and a hammer making all of this stuff.
Have you seen that picture? I think it's him and Gilliman standing in front of the thousands of pods with the new Primaris in. Like, how did you do this with nobody noticing? Don't worry about it.
Don't think about it.
Just use them.
See what you're doing there is you're asking questions.
Yeah. But
just don't ask those.
They have fleshed him out a bit because he's part of him because his personalities sort of shift, and there's different elements of him that come to the fore. And one of them is saying like, well, there's nothing really wrong with the traitor gene seed. There's nothing really wrong with it. Why aren't we making Primaris? We've got it. Why aren't we making Primaris out of them? Because Primaris can't turn traitor. So he's somewhat of a maverick, which is extremely unusual for the Adeptus Mechanicus because they don't really like innovation. And
He's
like the opposite of that. He's all for innovation, which I'm surprised he's still around because you'd think he would have been burned as a heretic ages ago. But for some reason he's protected, or he knows he's too high up to touch, or I don't know.
Maybe he's too smart for them. Like if he's that well versed in tech, maybe they do constantly send their various Mechanicum assassins after him, but he just wrecks them. Because I've seen him on the tabletop. You could do it.
Well, if you've seen him, I don't know how you'd assassinate him. He's the size of a tank.
Now you've got me there. I've never managed to kill him on the tabletop.
Yeah, so he's and part of him wants to be Fabricator General. One of his personalities wants to be Fabricator General, and Gilliman's sort of like, oh, I don't really have the authority to do that because it's its own church. Yeah, I can change the High Lord of Terror, but I can't really make you. Really, it means if I do that, the Mechanicum will split, and that'll be a whole new problem to fix. So he sort of found a reasonable excuse to say, I'm not really going to do that. But really, if he did become Fabricator General, the Mechanicus would split. Because part of the ones that are secretly pro innovation would be like, this is great. The Xenorites would be like, oh, we've got our man there, even though he's not. But I don't think he is a Xenorite, but he could be. And the ones that say no innovation ever would say this is absolute heresy. We can't have this. So he has got. I like the background they've fleshed out from we need a guy to introduce these new scale models. How do we do it fluff wise? And he was involved in the fall of Cadia because he's trying to get the pylons to work again, which is where your man, the Necron dude you've just been talking about, he sort of tries to help there.
He going under the guise of the Man of Iron, doesn't he?
But unfortunately, they crash a Blackstone Fortress into Cadia, blowing up the pylons, so it doesn't work.
I'd do it.
Yeah. So I like his fluff's great. I've got the book about him, but I haven't read it. It's on my to-do list. Because I think he's, for a new character, he's pretty good. I can't think of another character they've introduced recent-ish that's as good as he is. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, they often have that air of, oh hey, it's me. Yep, been here the whole time.
Yeah, but they did that, but they've sort of managed to work it in a bit.
I think it's got to work him in a bit when he's that prominent. It's like you better make him work.
They just went all in. Like, yeah, he did that. He reintroduced the Primaris Marines. He made their armor. He made their guns. He resurrected Guilliman and made him some new armor. What can't he do?
Nothing, apparently. He's a
No,
Magos of every stripe, but
he's a
then he
Magos
has had
Sue, if you will.
Hey, he has had what 10,000 years to learn
Yeah,
and not
years.
go mad.
Yeah, somehow. Well,
Maybe that's why he did it. Like each split personality is a different mechanic and discipline.
arguably, he has gone mad, but it's not really confirmed. He's got this machine, which he says, "Oh no, it's just like a problem-solving engine," but it's really an AI. It's very, very strongly hinted that it's an AI,
and that is a big no. That's a no, even in 30k. That's a no.
And he's not. He's like, well, why can't we have that? Why can't we have Traitor Primaris Marines? It'll be fine. I'm so confident. Why can't we do it? So I like that sort of mixing it up, because the AdMech, I really love the AdMech. They are quite stale, not as the range, just their outlook. Or at least that's one interpretation of it. So just have this guy who's pretty much near the top, and because he's so attached to Guilliman, he's pretty much untouchable, unless Guilliman. But I don't think Guilliman could afford to sell him out, because where would he get his Primaris from?
He's pulled in the gash then.
Yeah, he's so protected. So he could come up with he could actually say, yeah, why can't we make Traitor Primaris? It'll work. Or I should be the Fabricator General. And it's not immediate death or immediate exile.
Yeah.
And his model's great. Unfortunately, I chickened out painting it. I bought a painted one, but I sort of regret it, because I would like to try it. But it's a very impressive model. Yeah, well,
GW won't mind. Just buy him again.
No, that's true. Maybe I will. I don't know. I'm going to repaint. At least repaint the one I've got to purple robes, because my AdMech are purple. Even though he's from
Mars.
Yeah, he's from Mars.
No, so yeah, just get two. Paint one purple and paint one red.
You don't work for the company still. You don't have to.
Let's not bring up. We're not gonna. Not in this video, but I will maybe one day tell the tale of the Space Marine Scouts, which you might remember.
We'll have to clear that with legal before you tell that story. But yeah, I like his model. It's full of little bits of detail. Like he's got like a tannoy system on the side of him. It's like an actual tannoy horn. He's got a pile of books that he's walking on. He's got a little side computer that one of his arms is tapping on. He does have a pimp cane, doesn't he? If I remember rightly. Yeah, he does. And he's got a little scuttling thing that I don't know what it is, but it's attached to him somehow. And he's almost like a centipede, covered with these red robes, and it's a really great model.
You'd actually have to stare at it for quite a while to work out what's what on him, which I like about some of the more complicated Magos and Archmagos models they do, where it's it's hard to tell where dendrites end and priest begins.
Yeah, there's nothing really left of him flesh-wise, like tiny bits. But he sort of. Do you remember the 30k Magos? Which
yes, very much reminds me of him. Yeah,
you can see where that's sort of come from, because he's that old. They've just bolted stuff onto that, and he's got bigger and bigger and bigger. But that's sort of what it reminds me of. And rules-wise, when he was the start of the reroll all dice, because initially they thought it was a misprint when they got into 8th. Because the way it works is you roll a dice, then you reroll, then you modify. So if you hit on a 3 and you roll a 2 and you reroll to if you got a 3 and then the modifier made it -1, that's a fail. So you don't get to reroll that. But the way Call's rules were initially written was you just reroll everything, which made him really, really strong. And he was in the early 8th, he was the only special character that let you do that. Later on, everyone got it, and then it just became everything is a reroll. But that was like, this is a really, really strong ability that only he had, which I think was quite fitting because it's a 10,000-year-old tech priest who he'll be able to he'll be able to improve your shooting to that level because you should know, you'd be able to improve the weapons or whatever it is. So I thought that was quite reflective of his rules. It became less and less good because other characters came along with better powers, similar powers for cheaper. But his weapons are really strong. His solar atomizer and stuff. I think did I blow up an orc flyer with that, or something like took it down to one wound? It was just at point blank range. And he's surprisingly good in combat as well because he's got that mechadendrite hive, which does
That's
like
the thing that generates. It is 2d6, yeah.
2d6 attacks. So he's pretty good at rules wise.
I'd say he's a very good all rounder, which is not something you get a lot of in the Mechanicum.
No, it's very specialized. I mean, he does nothing for your combat units, but running a combat ad list is not usual. Well, I did it because I found it more fun. But like, I don't really run Mars that much now, so I don't. Well, when I was playing, so I don't really use him, which is a shame. But then he is like he's so associated with Mars, it wouldn't make sense for him to go with another Forge world.
No.
And he can. What can he? No, that's not Mars. Yeah, he can. He can adjust your canticle by one or add one or take one away.
Can.
Yeah. So if you run Mars, you roll 2 canticles and get the benefit of 2, and he can adjust them up or down by 1. So that's very strong. What else was I going to say? No, that's it. He's a great character. I've enjoyed playing him. I like his background. I'll have to use him more actually. I don't know what he's like in 9th. I've never played the Admech in 9th, but I would, when this whole Galapox thing goes away, I am going to break the Admech out.
Oh, excellent. I look forward to fighting them again because I don't look forward to fighting your Knights as Guard. They make my infantry largely irrelevant.
I disagree. With the way the objective scoring is, Knights can't hold objectives.
Oh, there is that.
So it doesn't matter if they all die. If you've sat on the objectives, then you've got all the points.
Right, well, for the penultimate pick as a whole, and for my last pick, a little bit of a bending of the rules because it's not technically a character. I know, but I think you'll get what I mean in that there's a limited number of them, and they are, for all intents and purposes, a character, but not a special character on the list. It is the Avatar of Khaine.
Ooh, controversial.
Controversial. The Lieutenant Worf of the Warhammer 40,000 universe.
I'll let it slide for that.
Yeah, you already you already know I'm gonna bring that up because you have to really. It's
if you ever want to show a thing as a threat, you'll have it kill an avatar.
Just for funsies, I have brought up the list of examples of that. To make a nod of that. I'd like to thank 1D4 channel for that little help. But yeah, I like the Avatar not just because of the backstory. It is actually a powerful unit, despite what happens to it all the time in the fluff. They're a good, strong, solid HQ. Very good heart of any Eldar army. An excellent answer to things like dreadnoughts and other factions' monstrous creatures. They are by far the choppiest unit you will get in an Eldar army. You've got the handy thing, like they brought back their immunity to Flamer and Melter, I believe, from 2nd edition.
Was that back?
I'm not sure about the current edition, but I'm sure it came back in 6th. Or at the very least, immunity to Flame. It's got super high weapon skill. It's got high initiative for its size. Good saves, good wounds. all around, it's a powerful and intimidating presence, even though its model hasn't really kept up with that because it's been the same since 1993, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, you can always order the Forge World one, which is magnificent and comes with a choice of 2 different flavors of Wailing Doom, sword and spear flavor.
If you have a oil well in your back garden, you could go to Forge World.
You could. Actually, it's of the fancy big Forge World units, it's fairly reasonably priced for it. It's about 70 quid, which I don't think is robbery if you actually get a look at one up close. The sculpt is astoundingly beautiful. With either sword or spear, I recommend the sword because the spear is notorious for snapping. It's gloriously huge, but also that makes it a bit of a bugger to transport. So if you're actually thinking of getting one, I would recommend players get the one with the sword, just for their own sanity. But yeah,
getting resin flashbacks now.
Oh no, the spear isn't just resin; it's resin and a brass rod, I believe.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a brass rod with resin at either end. A match made in hell. So
That's like the Space Marine Devastator second edition metal gun, metal model with a plastic arm connector.
Yeah, it's bloody awful to stick together. The mixed kits, those were a dark time. The only thing that close to rivals Finecast for awkwardness to work with. But yeah, I like the Avatar of Khaine because it has a really cool fluff about it. They're not just walking around craft worlds all the time, because they're living statues of molten iron and hatred and rage. So that would be difficult to have wandering around your craft world.
After some of them, don't they? Some sort of ritual.
They do. It's the ritual of the young king.
They have to sacrifice someone to.
Yes.
I remember reading it in the 4th edition codex, and I didn't know it was clear that the young king was turning into the Avatar, or he was like a sacrifice to bring the Avatar into being.
I believe it's to bring him into being.
Right.
Off the top of my head, the ritual of the young king represents. What the Avatar is a shard of the god Karl-Franz, who was destroyed. Who killed him?
Slaanesh.
It was Slaanesh that broke him.
Yeah.
Basically, each Avatar is one of the collected shards of Karl-Franz's corpse, and to be summoned into activity, it's not made clear whether they're all basically a tiny statue of Karl-Franz, relatively speaking. They're big by human scale, but tiny by original Khaine scale. It's not clear how many bits he was broken into, or whether the bits were reworked into Avatar shape, or they arrived that way. I assume the Eldar reshaped them. Each one sits at the center, a throne in the center of the craft world. And when they need to go to war, there's a call to arms that rouses all the aspect warriors, gets the guardians to go stop being bakers and become guardians for a bit. And at this point, the craft world tips over to a war footing. So, in a way, the Avatar is a representation. Obviously, Karl-Franz is the god of war, but the Avatar's summoning is a representation of the Eldar psyche itself, leaning towards total war. So, as I say, everyone takes up arms and swears the Guardian's oath. All the aspect warriors get off their asses and come out their temples. And at this point, the infinity circuit of that craft world starts channeling all the aggression generated by these individual Eldar psyches. And it pools and gathers in this center altar where the Avatar sits on its throne. So there's a shard of his... Oh, there you go. Sorry, I've brought up an article here that clarifies that. The shard of Khaine is actually housed inside the statue. It's at the heart. And all this energy is channeled into that shard. The ritual of the Young King is a ritualized sacrifice representing the hero Eldernesh, I think, refusing to serve Khaine. I'm not going to get too deep into the lore on this, but not too deep, because that's some quite obscure Eldar lore. Effectively, an exarch is chosen. The system for the exarch being chosen differs from Craftworld to Craftworld. Some guys, it's like a rotating time occupied position. Some decided by ritual combat, and so on and so forth. When that exarch is selected, they become, regardless of gender, the Young King, because they represent Eldernesh, who was male. So, male or female, they are referred to from that point as the Young King. And the sacrificing of the Young King is what entreats the spirit of Khaine to inhabit the shard of his body inside the Avatar. So the Exarch does not become the Avatar.
Well, that's answered that one.
There you go. It's their soul is, and I should also clarify, the reason this is all heavily ritualized, and I like this, is because too much Eldar spiritual energy would obviously attract Slaanesh, because of Slaanesh's curse to consume all Eldar souls. So they heavily ritualize it to distract him, basically, which is kind of a fun, clever thing. The ritual itself is quite brutal, actually. They carve a bunch of runes on the Young King's back. So the most senior exarch... I should mention the Young King is naked for this. Most senior exarch of each of the aspect carves the rune of their aspect of war into the Young King's back. On some, again, it differs here. On some Craftworld, a gold cup called the Chalice of Creel is held at the small of the back to collect his blood, while on others is allowed to flow freely, anointing the ground of Khaine's shrine, which is lovely. They bring forth. That's at that point they bring forth the what the Eldar call the Swindele. The Howling Death, or the Wailing Doom, the Avatar's weapon, is presented to the statue. And basically, at the end of the ritual, Khaine's spirit, if entreated correctly, inhabits the statue. Its heart beats to furious life. It glows as the rage of Khaine itself brings it life, and that life makes its core run molten. And another ritual aspect of Khaine's inhabitation is one of its hands will start to spontaneously weep blood constantly, as he is the bloody-handed god. And without further ado, comes to furious life, inhabited by all the power of Eldar hate and rage, steps off its throne and leads the Craftworld to war. So I kind of like the... see what I mean by when I say the...
You missed a bit where it then immediately gets killed by...
don't ruin it. I'd build it up so nice.
I'm only going off what I remember from various army books.
But I think that's like that. You see what I mean when I say it encapsulates the Eldar Craftworld shift to total war, where they abandon all their niceties and sensibilities and kill one of their own, which to Eldar is a huge deal as a dying race, in order, and not just one of their own, one of their finest warriors in an Exarch.
I didn't realize it was an Exarch either.
Yes, has to be an Exarch. But yeah, it's that process, the sacrifice of a great Eldar warrior, is what summons this thing. But it can only be summoned when the Craftworld has gone to war. Like, it's not going to come up for a minor scuffle. It can only be summoned when the whole Craftworld is bent towards the goal of fighting. It's that whole disregard of Eldar niceties and civilization, because the Avatar himself spurs Eldar to savagery and ferocity in combat that you don't usually see. So it's a sort of
murder. So
yeah. But you know what I mean when I say it represents them. I like how I've always liked that about Eldar, how their way of fighting is very ritualized, so that how each aspect represents a specific intricate aspect of war. Which results in a lot of Eldar units being specialized. This is like the whole, right, the gloves are off. Everyone's going into the fight. That's like, I know. I like its sort of storied background, which is why the list of how many times it's been ganked is so depressing. So I'll skim over this, but let's see. In the 5th edition Space Marine Codex, Magnus Cawl beats one to death.
Yeah.
Punches it to death. During the invasion of the Eldar craftworld Keris, it was possessed somehow by a keeper of secrets, which killed it. In the battle between craftworld Ayandon and the High Fleet Kraken, one was trampled to death by Carnifexes.
Carnifexes aren't big now.
I know, but that's just depressing. It's not even killed by them; they run it over. Yeah, the Avatar tries to goad the Fleet's Hive Tyrant into a duel, and the Hive Tyrant goes, "Nah, Carnifexes, get them, boys," and they just leg it over and stamp them to death. In the Horus Heresy books, this one I remember going, "Hang on a minute," when I read it, but one is strangled to death by Fulgrim.
Does it even breathe? Yeah.
That was my first question. It's not super clear by the writing, but it's either choked or it has its neck broken. But it doesn't breathe, and it doesn't have a nervous system, and it doesn't have bones, so I don't know how that works. But, rule of cool, I guess. What, Sanguinor's killed one? Who hasn't, though? One planet doused one in water, which killed it.
Now that's a big problem for there's a lot of planets.
Metal entity, yeah,
there's a lot of planets that've got a lot of water on them.
Let's see. Logar's killed one. Anyone can kill him. Logar is the wussiest of the Primarchs. That's right, I said it. Team killed by Morgan Ra, the Phoenix Lord of the Dark Reapers. To temper the scythe blade of his Shrieker cannon, stabs one in the heart. So apparently, at some point, Morgan Ra raised an avatar just so he could shank it and get a better knife.
Are they doing this use of resources in such a way?
Apparently they are. Some orcs killed one once. Legion of the Damned killed one. One got ran over by a battle wagon. The Avatar of Ulthware was killed by an orc battle wagon.
So they're more of a minor nuisance on the battlefield then?
Apparently. Don't even get me started on their appearances in Dawn of War. Because there's a hilarious thing. You remember Dark Crusade, how the cutscenes were sort of adapted? So every ending area, for those who don't know, every ending area has an end cutscene, which changes depending on which faction you are when you beat them. So basically it hot swaps in your faction's units at that faction's defeat cutscene. Now, the problem with this, apparently, is in Dark Crusade, when you destroy the Eldar stronghold during the Kronos campaign, in the background, you see the Avatar getting slain in single combat by the tallest unit your army has to offer. And in some cases, that makes sense. So if you're Chaos, it's a Bloodthirster. If you're the Necrons, it's a Nightbringer Shard. If you're the Tau, it's the Great Narlock. However, if you're the Imperial Guard, it gets killed by a Sentinel.
That's probably happened.
You know what? It probably has. It gets kicked to death.
I thought you were going to say it's a captain or something.
Sorry, that's the Space Marines. If you beat it as the Space Marines, your librarian kills it.
So the Avatar, then, it's a very ritualized summoning ceremony. Is there any accounts where it actually killed anything?
There must be. I can't find any, but I'm sure it's killed some things. Maybe a
It
few
seems
gods,
very,
maybe.
seems very. If you remember the 6th and 7th edition Tyranid Codex, which was full of stories about how Tyranids got beat. Hang on, that's not what I want. I want my units kicking ass. I don't want to be told how they got killed or got beat. That's the issue I have with the Avatar.
Yeah, the Avatar gets. I should have brought that up with Trazyn, actually. He is one of the rare examples of a character who repeatedly wins outside of his own codex. He wins a battle with the Space Wolves in their own codex supplement. And
I
there's
immediately
a few
like
other
him then,
examples.
because I don't like the
Yeah.
Space Wolves.
I like the Vilka. How do you pronounce that? The Vilka Fenreka? The route. I like the direction Abnett took them in, but the way they've remained in they've always been a sort of, to me, a bit of a weird joke faction. I can't take them seriously. At least I could until they brought in Thunderwolf cavalry. That really ruined the whole "there is no wolves on Fenris." It's like, but look, there are, because he is a unit of space wolves riding giant wolves in
Yeah, with a
space.
3-up invulnerable for some reason.
Because those wolves are big.
Invulnerably
And maybe
big.
magic. Invulnerably big. Thick fur.
Well, actually, the Space Wolves is a nice segue onto my top choice,
Oh?
who is Magnus the Red.
You're getting a slow clap for that, hang on.
It works.
It does. I'm so startled you picked Magnus.
He's possibly my favourite character in any either 40k or fantasy. He's
Bold claim.
well, he's such a tragic hero. And yeah, he did nothing wrong.
That's a hot take.
No, it's not up for debate. He did nothing wrong. If the Emperor had been honest with him, he would have remained loyal, and he wouldn't have smashed the wards on the Imperial Webway, and he would have been able to sit on the Golden Throne while the Emperor sorted out the Horus Heresy, and then they would have been able to have a Webway supported human civilization, and chaos would have been annihilated. So he had all this potential, and just because the Emperor didn't understand, well, he understood, for some reason, got his priorities wrong, and because Lehman Russ can't understand that an order sheet that has got crayon written all over it saying "kill Magnus" over a very clear official thing saying "arrest Magnus," then it all went wrong. Because
There's a blistering series of hot takes there.
It's all fact. Never mind hot takes. This is all fact. Because he's not like what do you call it, Mortarion and Petiralvo, who don't really like their legion, or Angron, who kills them. He's got a very relatively small legion who he really loves, and the fact that they have this mutation problem at the start, it really gets to him, and he tries to fix it, and he makes a deal with what he thinks is some benevolent entity. It's actually Chaos Gods. It's Tzeentch, to fix the mutation. So he gets reeled in by them with the, well, we'll stop the mutation if you make this deal. He uses magic or sorcery or psychic powers, but he thinks it's for the good. He builds that when he's found on Prospero. He becomes a great scholar. He becomes very revered. Uses these magic and sorcery for the benefit of, because it's Prospero. What's the cap? Tizca. It's the city.
Tizca,
It's like,
yeah.
if you go outside, there's these horrible insect things that'll
Psychnoine.
he'll like lay psychic eggs in your brain and they're horrible. But anyway, he's to purge the city purge the planet of them to make it a prosperous planet again. He's very benevolent. He thinks that psychic powers and learning and stuff are the way to improve humanity. And if the Emperor just told him, look, there's this thing called chaos, be careful. These deals you're making, you want to stop that. I think he would have taken it on board. Because all that happens is he said, "Whoa, I've been using psychic powers. Everything seems to be going well, and now you're saying I can't use them. But you're not telling us why."
You could argue that the bit where he made it official at Nicaea should have been the point where he could have took a hint.
But he doesn't. It doesn't explain why. It just says, "Nah, we're not using them again."
I suppose there is that.
Except me, the Emperor, I'll still use them.
And the Space Wolves somehow. No, that's elemental stuff.
Well, that's another load of hypocrisy. That we don't use it. We use what's a rune priest then? What power is he tapping into? Is it warp? Yes, it is.
No, it's the elemental ancestral power of the homeworld.
No, it isn't. That's a total lie.
I suppose for reasons you may not like Mortarion that much.
Well, at least Mortarion's not so much of a hit. Well, yeah, because he doesn't like them either, but is all right with their use. But Mortarion
is one now.
Yeah, but Mortarion didn't. This is like, what if Leon Russ has had a disorder that says bomb Prospero to oblivion and kill Magnus, and he doesn't for 1 minute think, I better check this because this doesn't seem right. Horace has handed it to me.
Well, why would you not trust Horace?
Yeah, I don't believe it.
Because at one point, the Emperor just grabs Horace and he's like, "You, I'm a number one, a guy," and everyone goes along with that.
Yeah, but nah, I'm not buying it. And the fact that the Emperor didn't go directly to Leman Russ and say, "Be very clear on what I want here." I mean arrest. That's
by arrest, I don't mean arrest life vital functions.
No, I mean bring to me. Magnus just seems to be, and yes, I am making a lot of excuses for him. He's just a victim of circumstance. He's got the abilities that he uses for the benefit of the people he likes, and it just so happens that they're powered by the warp, which he's not told about by the Emperor. What do you call him? Leman Russ decides to not question a obviously forged order and blows his city into oblivion. So he accepts it. I've obviously done something wrong. He turns the planetary defenses off. He doesn't warn his sons that he knows it's coming, but he doesn't warn them. So they start getting pounded. And then at the end, he's like, I can't take it anymore. So he starts defending the city. He has this big punch up with Leman Russ where he gets his back snapped. And then that's in the last minute. It's like Tzeentch makes this deal. Do you want to be saved or not? And he says, he takes it on himself and says, for the good of me legion, so that we're not all killed, I'll make the deal. And then Tzeentch saves him. So he's taken that on as well.
You could argue that Tzeentch caused the original mutation.
Well, he did, yeah.
He absolutely did. So
again, that's
kind of buggered from the start.
That's not Magnus's fault. That's the Emperor's fault. He didn't make the Legion. He didn't make himself.
I like that even in your very, very pro Magnus account of that, you still have to admit that he got the Iron Shake treatment, where Russ turns up, breaks his back, and makes him humble. That's right, for your 90s wrestling fans. I got it in there.
But it's everything that Magnus is blamed for is not his fault. It's somebody else's or the circumstances' fault.
But
and he goes berserk when when Ahriman turns them all into dust, he goes berserk. He's like, he still loves his legion. He still loves his sons. He's
He
like,
shouldn't have gone. He shouldn't really have gone berserk because, like, think about it. Now they can never mutate.
I think that was the line that they tried to sell it through. That's not exactly what he meant.
That was how. That was the silver lining Ahriman tried to pitch it.
Yeah.
Pitch in the boardroom.
Look on the positive side. So I like his backstory. It's very tragic. You know, it's like if the Emperor had handled the situation better, he would have had Thousand Sons as a loyal legion. But literally, because Magnus is given no other choice, like you either die and your legion dies and your planet dies, or I'll save you. But you work for me now, and he's right. I'll do it.
To be devil's advocate, you could copy paste a few of those sentences to all traitor legions.
No, you couldn't. All the other traitors are evil,
except the Sons of Horus. I think. Actually, you know, also kind of, except for the Death Guard, I know they are very much strong-armed into Nurgle's service, but even from the get-go, it's clear that, like,
Mortarion sends them through the warp just on the deliberate idea of getting them to turn into plague marines. Like, he doesn't care. He's not bothered about his legion.
No, I mean more that they are, from the get-go when you first meet them, with the exception of Nathaniel Garrow, they're all arseholes and jerks.
Yeah.
Like, Captain Typhon is terrible when you first meet him. He's like, oh, no surprises he's a villain. He's like a complete dick when you first meet them. I suppose Abaddon, even Abaddon's like vaguely likable when they introduce him in Horus Rising, but no, there's none of the Death Guard save Garrow are even like vaguely pleasant.
No. But and Magnus's new model is amazing. To go on.
Oh yeah, I forget. He's one of that rare transcendent series of 3 characters who you can play as in both 30 and 40k.
Yeah, I've got it, and I'm following the Duncan Rhodes painting guide, which is really good because I would never attempt that sort of model without a solid guide to follow. And I've used him on the battlefield, and he's very good. He's very fun. Very, very strong psyker.
You kidding?
Yeah, you're surprised, but he's really good in combat as well.
Well, look at the size of him.
Being a demon Primarch, if you can get him into the lions, he just rips things apart. I've never used him. Oh, yes, I have used him in 9th because I've got a very small Thousand Sons army.
Aren't they all very small though?
What, my armies?
No, Thousand Sons armies. Way.
Oh, I see. Well, arguably, it's built the Legion up to about, I don't know, about 50,000 because they can make new ones. I didn't know this.
Oh yeah, that's been the fluff since 5th, because it mentions the Black Legion has their own cadre of Ruric Marines because Abaddon is enlisted. That's how the Black Legion have all of the represented, like, marked Marines. They have a few Nurgle sorcerers, a few World Eater psychosurgeons, and a few Thousand Sun sorcerers, so they can make their own berserkers and Rubik Marines and stuff.
They can also, if they die, if the army gets destroyed, if they recover the dust or the soul or something, they can put it back into another suit of armor. So they're like the Tomb Kings, and they've got Egyptian iconography as well, in that they're very slowly build back up to the original size.
So effectively, you can't defeat a Thousand Sons army if each Marine is assigned his own personal Roomba to follow him.
That's probably what Magnus has done because he's that forward thinking.
Just as planned.
Yeah, just to sell Roombas to his sorcerers. Yeah, he's probably my favorite character in the whole game system. It's just something about him that's a plus to me, that he thinks he's doing the right thing, and yet, what would you do? Oh my God, Horus, the War Master, the favorite son of the Emperor, is a traitor. I better tell the Emperor right now.
It is frustrating.
Could have gone so differently if the Emperor said, "Do not use psychic power. If you got anything important, do not use psychic powers near to the Imperial Palace, because I've got a big load of psychic wards there, which must not be damaged under any circumstances, because they're protecting the Imperial Webway. Do you understand, Magnus?" And he would go, "Yeah, I'll take a ship. I'll walk it. It's fine."
I'll send a letter.
Instead of, nah, don't use them, and I'm not telling you why.
I mean, you could argue that
there is no argument. Magnus is great.
There's no argument.
No.
In theory, the argument would be that he has his problem is his lack of humility and hubris, and that if he was truly a loyal son of the God Emperor, he would have just obeyed and not asked questions.
But that's his nature. That's what he does. He's
saying the God Emperor was going to win Father of the Millennium.
Should have recognised his own son's innate. Well, the only one he ignored really was Petraravo. So, yeah. But he's got like weirdos like the Lion. He doesn't screw them over.
Oh, the ultimate traitor, Primarch.
Yes, the one who's actually managed to remain on the loyalist roster, despite the fact his legion is a bunch of traitors, allegedly.
It's not allegedly. The greatest trick that the Dark Angels ever pulled was proving that they weren't traitors.
He's got Lehman Russ, who's like a failed Angron. Who else is?
The knives are out now.
Although I'm a big fan of the Emperor, I don't think the loyalist Primarchs are as interesting as the traitor ones, with a few exceptions. Like Vulcan, I think Vulcan is. I like Vulcan.
I've got a lot of time for Vulcan.
He's my favorite loyalist Primarch.
I really liked Ferrus Manus. You know, while he lasted.
Yeah, for his brief appearance.
I really dislike that.
Then he had to head off.
Hey, I dislike that whole part of him. I was like, I know he's going to be the first one to bite it. Stop making me like him. But you know, all good things must be decapitated, as the saying goes.
Yeah, that's yeah. All your heroes end that way, being decapitated by a giant snake man.
He isn't a snake man at that point. He's just a sketchy pervert.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
He won't be a snake man until about $10 later, I think.
Yeah, got that one wrong. But he's I think Magnus is, the way I read it, he's separate from the other traitor Primarchs as well. I don't think he's sympathetic to their aims, or he associates much with them. He's got his own agenda. So this is why I don't really think that it's. I mean, you have to, because the Black Legion and the Abaddon is like the unifier of chaos and all that. I don't really think that he would provide help to the Black Legion and the Black Crusades, because I don't think his agenda is the same thing.
Yeah, he's a bit of a strange figure in that regard. A lot of the traitor Primarchs are the ones that still exist anyway, or aren't imprisoned, because they can just be like, some of them on a whim will give troops to the Black Legion, but since they don't fully control their own legions anymore, individual warlords end up helping out Abaddon anyway, so it kind of doesn't matter.
Yeah, but like
in a way,
the Thousand Sons are they're still although they are a bit more disparate, there's still a coherent force.
Yes.
Whereas, like, as opposed to the World Eaters, who are just
roving bands, yeah.
They're not really a unified force at all. But I suppose the Death Guard are they quite? I don't really know much about the Death Guard. Are they still unified.
Given that they're their own faction, I think they are largely still operating as unified force. So you do, like every Chaos faction, get champions who've splintered off with their own, and like petty lords who've gone off with their own factions and entourages.
The Thousand Sons, because there'll be a supreme sorcerer who's in charge of these little the light war bands. Yeah, something like that. They've got a thrall bands or something like that. But they're all like, it's almost like a feudal system. They're all owe loyalty to the top, and then Magnus can call them together and send them off to do something. But yeah, Magnus, my number one guy. If only the Emperor had thought the same way. Because you know that Magnus would have ended up on the Golden Throne forever. That was the plan.
Which is either a punishment or a reward, depending on who you believe.
Well, it's not. I'm not sure if he would have to be there forever, because the Emperor can, if the wards hadn't been breached, the Emperor can siphon off his power into the throne from anywhere. He doesn't have to be sat on it directly. But when the wards are breached, he's got to sit on it to maintain the psychic, to repair the damage to the psychic wards. I'm not sure if, had that not exploded, if Magnus would just be expected to provide the power for it anywhere. I don't know if Magnus was supposed to sit on the gold throne forever, or he would be allowed off to do his own thing. But anyway, the grand plan of the Emperor, I'm sure, required Magnus to sit on the throne and keep the webway barrier secure. And I think all the other Primarchs would have been killed. But
not a lot of faith in the Emperor there.
I think that's in the Emperor's. I think that's exactly what the Emperor's nature would do. Like these are all disposable tools for winning a great crusade. I need this one to stay on the Golden Throne, but I don't need the rest. So that was my number one choice. You'll notice by the way I sound exactly the same I did literally seconds ago. Obviously, this isn't being recorded later because the whole thing was corrupted at the end. So how did you find that interview that literally just happened a few seconds ago?
I remember it well.
Because it just happened.
It just happened. It's incredibly fresh in my memory.
There's a phenomenon where you get to the end of one of these and it feels like it's been a week ago, but it really hasn't. Honest.
If I was to guess how long ago it felt, I would have said almost exactly 1 week.
That's amazing.
It's uncanny.
Yeah. Sometimes even the acoustics sound different just at the end of the interview. I don't know what it is. It's remarkable.
I've heard it's what happens when you're at the end of an incredible podcast episode. That the human senses are heightened to such a point that you can hear incidental details that you couldn't before, and sometimes it makes. I think it's because it's such a transcendent experience. Probably.
That's all very true. Yeah,
that's almost certainly it.
That's 100% what's happened. But so anyway, I think we got away with that.
Yep.
Thank you for joining me.
Just the one time.
The one time.
Thank you for having me just that one time as well.
It's all right. Nobody listens to this far in, so we'll get away with it.
Yeah, you could say anything.
Oh, no. Right. Good. Right. Well, on that bombshell, thank you for joining me. You may come back in the future, or we're doing that live stream at some point.
Future.
In fact, I know this
live stream in 2 days. If
yeah.
Wait. No, this
no. We're doing it in 9 days. No.
Crap. Shit.
I don't know how this works.
9 days time, because this is a week ago.
Yeah, that's right. 9 days time.
No, I mean this is now. There was no gap.
Whichever it is, that means we did it all in one go and it didn't screw up the recording. That's the time that it is.
That's the one.
Right.
And
on that, see you on the next episode.
Indeed. Goodbye, everybody.